Threads of Wisdom podcast. We're so glad you're here. Our purpose in life is to take the wisdom, information, and knowledge of Christian women CEOs and to share it with you. And today we've got Angela Verdin, who is the chairman and CEO coach of Vistage, Florida. Thank you so much for being here, Angela. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here with you again, Caroline.
Well, it's good to see you. So let's start. Tell us about your professional journey. How did you end up where you are right now?
So, my professional journey was one full of roadblocks and potholes and a few curb checks. And uh, well, I've been all over the place. First of all, I am a wife and mother, and I took the non traditional route when it came to college and beginning my career and things like that. And so, I was raising a son when I went to college and working a full time job. So I learned to do all the things all at once. And that's really, really benefited me throughout my career, throughout my journey. And thank God that He was there with me along the way. I've been very, very blessed. Um, so 30 years in accounting and finance, about 15 years now in leadership. And taking those accounting and finance lessons with me to run businesses, to turn businesses around. I've done a little bit of everything, international business, domestic, small, large, you name it. I've been there and done that and seen it all. And now I'm bringing it with me.
Fantastic. So tell us about what you do now. Is it a calling? Is it a what? Tell us more about
It's
that.
absolutely a calling. It's definitely something that was never on my radar as I began my journey into accounting, but into the leadership executive suite. It's just something that sort of happened. In my last professional role, in my last corporate role, I was a member of a peer roundtable group through Vistage, which is what I run now. And um, that group really had a huge impact on my life, both personally and professionally. And
Hmm.
when I moved to Orlando 2.5 years ago, there wasn't a group like that here. There were other roundtable groups, but there wasn't one that was uh, very, very intentional about accountability and learning and growing educationally together with a group of like-minded people in non-competing businesses. And so
Mm-hmm.
I went back to my old Vistage chair and said, is this something you think I should consider doing? Is this something you think I would be good at? Is it something that is worthwhile? What are your thoughts? And he said, Angela, you've been in a group for 8 years. You know how to do it. You're very capable. Um, Go to boot camp and get trained and start building a group and just see what you think about it. And so I did all that. And the moment I got my first member and started having meetings, I knew that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. So through this journey, God has used every season of my life to allow me to pour into other people, to pour what I've learned and what I've seen into others. And I can't stand to watch other leaders make avoidable, lonely mistakes. I know what that feels like. I know the stakes are high. And if I can help prevent that and be a part of their growth journey, I'm there with them every step of the way.
Would you say that you were in the right place? What was that knowing? Was it a feeling? Was it a say a little more about that?
It's a heart feeling. It's definitely it's something that you can only attribute to the Holy Spirit saying, this is where you're supposed to be. This is it's just a level of joy and
Mm.
fulfillment that comes from every conversation, and just knowing that I am able to contribute to the lives of not only each leader that I work with, but each employee that falls under them, and each family member that's related to them. I'm
Hmm.
helping them to change their lives in such a meaningful way that, yeah, it's not me. I'm the vessel. This is definitely a God thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about roundtables. And I don't know how many of the people watching are CEOs, but let's talk about roundtables just in general because they serve many different people, right? You've got CEO roundtables, you've got management roundtables, you have entrepreneurial roundtables. I don't think that I would guesstimate, and I'd be curious to know your thoughts, that less than 10% of those in leadership are in a roundtable.
Absolutely. And I'm on a big mission to change that because, I lead CEO roundtables right now, but I've been a part of what was called a key group roundtable, but just getting yourself into a group of your peers that share the same struggles that you are running into every day, the same challenges, the same issues, where you can go and speak openly and honestly. You can be truthful and vulnerable and guide one another and really receive from one another. That's priceless. If I can learn something from the mistakes that somebody else has already made, if that can prevent me from making the same mistakes, that's, to me, that's a no-brainer. Um,
Yeah.
it's something. It's a tool that is um, priceless.
I think it's the best kept secret in business.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm on a mission to change that. So,
Fantastic.
as part of building this group and putting this thing together, I have conversations with uh, countless people, and they're not just candidates for the group. They're VPs, and they're leadership team members and things like that, and each one of those conversations teaches me something. I walk away from every one of those conversations knowing something that will be useful in the next conversation. And it's an opportunity for me to not only pour back into the community, but learn from the community as well.
Yeah. So let's talk about some misunderstandings about being in a roundtable. What have you seen that people misunderstand about it?
Well, so the thing that I hear the most when I meet with people or when I mention what I do is uh, that it's a networking group or that it's a leads club. And it couldn't be much further from that.
Yeah.
So, what we do is we get together and challenge one another and listen to one another and share our own experiences based on the challenges of other group members and walk hand in hand alongside of the other group members as they're executing on the things that they've committed to. You bring a challenge, and if you're just throwing it around and you're not really getting to the resolution, or this is what these are the steps
Right.
I need to take to get to that resolution, what are you doing? You're not going to accomplish anything. But when you can say, okay, this is what I've heard and this is what I commit to, and you've got people there beside you who are committed to following up with you and holding you accountable and being there for you when, as you're executing the steps that you said you were going to execute, and you have
Right.
questions or you need help, when you have somebody to reach out to that can walk that journey with you, it's everything.
Let's talk about some ROI of being in a CEO roundtable. What have you seen or what have your clients told you that the return on investment is?
So this is probably my favorite, the favorite question I have when I talk about CEO groups or peer groups with other people. The ROI is what you make it. So some of the best things that I've seen and experienced personally were getting your time back. When I first became a member of a peer group, I was very much in a turnaround phase, and in the throes of uprighting a ship that was about to go down. It was about to be really ugly. And my CEO at the time told me that I was going to have to give away this whole day every month to go sit in this peer roundtable group. And I was mad. I was like, you want me to do what? Do you understand the undertaking that I have here? Do you have any idea of what I'm doing? And he was like, I don't care. You're going to go do this thing. And I promise it'll be worth it. And I walked into that first meeting mad. I was very upset. I had so many things on my desk that I needed to get done, so many other big priorities, and I was really mad. And at the end of that day, I was curious. There were still things that were happening. One of the things about these groups is when you walk into the room, you're committed to the group. So there's no cell phones, there's no computers. You can't be trying to multitask and work while you're meeting with the group. You have to give the group your undivided attention. And when they're processing your issue, they're giving you their undivided attention.
That's right.
And so at the end of the day, I was like, what have I missed? Like, I really stressed. And then by the third meeting, by the third month, I was like, where has this been my whole life? This is so great and so helpful. And I couldn't wait to go back to the next meeting. And then, by the end of my 8-year journey, all of these people were the people who were in lockstep with me for every decision I made, for every, you know, every family crisis. In my group, we processed divorces, we processed board member issues. We processed all the things that you can't talk about with just anybody, and it was all confidential. And so, when you're making those decisions and you have those people sharing with you what's worked for them and what hasn't, you're naturally going to get your time back. And so that one day a month that I was so mad about giving away turned into a multiplier of, being able to walk away from the office and not feel like I was tied to my computer or my voicemail or whatever, being able to actually leave it behind. So that's probably the best soft ROI. And then also getting your family back, like understanding that it's not just work-life balance. It's actually being with your family when it's their time. Being in the office when you're in the office and focusing on the office when you're there, but letting that go and being able to be comfortable with the fact that the business is going to be okay when you're not in the office. And then as far as hard ROI goes, I have a favorite story. There's a guy, his name's Brian Raffel. He's with Raven Software. He started his company in his garage many years ago. Raven Software is the company that produces the Call of Duty gaming series. And so if you know anything about video games, or if you have any sons or husbands or that like video games, everybody knows Call of Duty. Well, this guy started this business in his garage and sold his business to Microsoft for $69 billion with a B.
Nice. With a B.
And he's still a Vistage member today. He just retired a few months ago. Nice guy, down to earth, but he's the Cinderella story, of course. But he is the model of what can happen to you when you're leaning into the resources that you have, the resources that peer groups can provide, and actually executing on all of those things. And so, and I've seen it 100 times over in my own groups. I've seen companies sell with exits that generate generational wealth. I've seen, you name it. We've been through it, and I've seen some business decisions that didn't go so well. I sat through the pandemic with my Vistage group, and thank God they were there, because everybody in my group did well through the pandemic. While our competitors were failing and laying off people, we were hiring those people and developing those people. We had a banker in the group that was able to tell us what was going on, what was coming down the pike for PPP or for, with the banking world. And we had the
Hmm.
CEO of the local blood bank who was doing all the testing, who knew what was happening with the strains that were coming. So we were so far ahead of all of our competitors. And actually my company for 2021 did the highest revenue we had ever done and had the highest net profit we had ever had. And I attribute that 100% to my Vistage group.
My studies and experience is that the investment, let's say you invest $15,000 a year in a round table, that it's three times the return. So you actually come away with 45,000 in either savings and or increased revenue. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, and so I want to encourage you, if you're listening today or watching this, go find yourself a peer roundtable and try it for at least 3 to 6 months. And if it doesn't work for you, come and tell us, because there is no better investment that I've seen that the Lord has given us than to be in community with each other and helping each other avoid going down roads that, sometimes we go for the low hanging fruit, and the people in our group will go, don't do it, don't go there, right? Bad clients, getting rid of them, firing, hiring, all of these things, will suck up time and energy. And your group is watching and they're saying, you know what, I've done that, don't do it. Well, that just
Absolutely.
saved you hours and hours, right? Usually months of time that could be invested in something else. So thank you for that. I hope that
That's
helps
right.
people.
And as
So,
CEOs, it's easy for us to fall into the trap of chasing the shiny objects. And I
yeah,
can't tell you how many times I've seen the group say, "You want to do what?" No, no.
don't
And it's
go there, or
it's
tried
hard
it.
for us. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you have to stop and ask yourself, is this God? Is this a calling? Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? And sometimes you need that additional voice of reason to say, no, it's not. Look at it again. Go back and consider it this way. Meditate on it. And I've seen a lot of bad decisions avoided because of the input of the group.
Yeah, wonderful. So we're going to shift now to your leadership style. What is your leadership philosophy or style?
So my leadership style is, I call it carefrontation. So it is it's
Love it.
it's loving your members, loving on those CEOs, but also challenging them. Because when you find yourself in too much of a loving or supportive space where you're telling them the things that they want to hear instead of what they need to hear, they're going to get soft and they're going to become complacent. And we all know what happens when we end up in those spaces. But if you can do that in a place where you can love them and challenge them at the same time, they're going to grow and they're going to appreciate that. And it has to come from a place of balance. It has to come from a place of the heart and leading in a godlike manner, right? So um, a lot of people don't necessarily think of it this way, but when I think of God, I think of my father or my daddy, and I grew up in the South. I don't know if it was like this everywhere, but my daddy loved me. But when I needed correcting, he corrected me. And
Yeah.
he did it in a way that still let me know that he loved me, but that we got to turn this thing around. Like how can we turn this thing around? What can we do differently? And I try to use that same mentality with my CEOs. It's, look, I'm here for you and I'm going to walk this journey with you, but when you need to hear something, you're going to get it because you're otherwise surrounded by people who work for you, your employees, and
Right.
they
That's
may
right.
challenge you occasionally, But at the end of the day, you're their boss, and they're not necessarily going to tell you the things that you always need to hear. And so, my commitment to everybody in the group is I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. I'm going to say it in a manner that gets my point across, but gets my point across in a way that allows you to know that I'm here with you and I support you. And, you know, we're going to do the best thing for your organization and for your family together.
So I think that's a good lesson for all of us is to share and speak with people and give them what they need, not what they want. And
Yeah,
Jesus did that, right? Jesus was kind, but he was not nice.
that's right.
Um, and there's a difference between kindness and niceness. Niceness says, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear, or I'm going to avoid the conflict or the confrontation, or I'm just going to ignore things and shove it under the rug. Kindness speaks the truth in love and calls things out that need to be called out. And I think that's
Absolutely.
one of the joys of being in. It's not easy. And I think the other thing, Angela, that I find is that the majority of people aren't in peer roundtables because they're unwilling to submit to the process. When you're in a group, just like you talked about, you are investing and you are submitting to the group process. And that means giving and receiving, which is often uncomfortable. Most people don't want to receive information, input, advice, wisdom. They want to do their own thing. And I think that's the culture, right, of where we are now is that I'm my own man. I pull myself up by my bootstraps. I'm doing what I want to do. And that's the American way. When in reality, right, what Jesus modeled is community. He could have
Yes.
done, right? But he didn't. He took 12 guys and went into relationship with them in community where they all learned together and grew together. And that's the model. I don't think, Angela, I've ever seen anything more powerful. And I've been at this 40 years now. Anything's more powerful besides one-on-one coaching. And I think that that's powerful too, given the season that they're in. But together in community with other people at their level, peers speaking into each other, it's like a catapult. And the women that I've seen do it over the years have always grown. And if they didn't grow, they didn't submit to the process. They might have shown up to the group, but they kept their mouth shut, or they said, oh, no, I don't need that, or I've already done that, or I've already tried that. That didn't work. They're not listening. They're not receiving the wisdom that's being given to them, which is valuable.
And that's where it's really, really important to have a strong group leader who recognizes that and is not afraid to call it out in a meaningful
Yeah.
way and in a supportive way. But, to say, look, I see you and I understand where you're coming from, whether it's a place of fear or, whatever it is. But how do we get past that? This is what I see. It's holding you back. And what do we need to do
Hmm.
to get past that?
Yeah. And there's a submission part. And I mean, nobody goes, ooh, I'd like to submit. Yeah, good times, good times. And it's not submission to you, the leader. It's submission to the group and the process. And there's a distinction. And I find even in a Bible study that I lead, there are women who come and they sit and they want to be the wise person who gives all the advice. But when someone sees something and we deliver the message to them because God speaks through other believers, uh, you could see them just bristling and you can see their spirit going, nope, not receiving it. Nope, it's not my, nope, nope, thank you. And I just go, oh, Lord Jesus, please help this person to receive what's been given to them because it's only right through going low that we can be lifted up. So thank you for that. Who most influenced your leadership along the way?
Oh, this is a good one. So, I've had a lot of coaches over the years, thank God. And I've definitely been influenced by my coaches. Caroline, you know this because you've coached me. And those are my greatest role models. Those are my greatest influencers. Absolutely. You guys were always the ones that showed me what was possible. ask the questions. You didn't say, oh, you've got to do this, do it this way.
Right.
You were asking the questions to lead me to my own decisions, my own path. And that's what it's
Mm.
all about. And that's what I want to bring into my coaching and my facilitation when I'm working with the group. And then also, I would be remiss if I didn't give some credit to Wayne Leonard. He's passed away now, but he was the CEO of Entergy Corporation, which was the only Fortune 500 company in the state of Louisiana. Um, it's the power company, and everybody hates the power company, right? Nobody likes to pay their electric bill. But he was the CEO of Entergy through Katrina. And, if you know anything about Katrina in New Orleans, you know the struggles and the challenges that we went through for
Mm.
so long. And he
Yeah.
was um, the ultimate servant leader through that whole ordeal. He was the most
Mm.
caring and compassionate man. And he was an accountant by degree, just like me. He was a CFO and worked his way up into that big corporate CEO seat. And if you know anything about me, I like race cars. Everybody knows I like race cars and racing. And he had a race car. And so I took a chance and sent him an email one day just out of the blue and asked him about his race car. And we struck up a friendship. And he ended up becoming one of the greatest mentors of my life. And I have
Mm.
on my wall right now, still in my office today, and this has been years and years ago, in my office today, I have something that he used to say all the time, which was above all, act with integrity. And
Mm.
I have his his quote and his name on my wall, and I will have it forever. Um,
Beautiful.
he really had the biggest impact on my life as far as where he had been and what he had done, where he landed and what was possible and how to get there. And he was a human too. And so many of us put these leaders on a pedestal and we don't realize they're just like we are. When I sent him
Right.
that email initially, I was thinking, he was an older guy. He was right on the cusp of retirement, and I was like 32. And I was like, well, I have something that all his money can't buy him. I have my youth. So I'm just going to rattle off this email, and I probably won't get a response. But when he replied to me, he replied with a whole paragraph, and it just knocked my socks off. And
Mm.
it was one of the most impactful times of my life.
Mm. Wonderful. What do you do to grow and, shape your leadership now?
So I'm a perpetual student. I always will be. I really think that when we get that mindset of I've already learned everything and I'm here and I know it all, that's when we become really dangerous. And you can see all the books behind me. Somebody asked me yesterday, "Have you read all those books?" Yes, I absolutely have, and there are more that you can't see on my left that are on the list that are up next. And so it's I am a continuous learner. I want to read. I want to talk to as many people as I can. I want to know what everybody's doing. I want to know what they've seen. They may be a group candidate or they may not. I'm naturally curious, and I really think that the day that that curiosity goes away is the day that I
Mm.
stop living.
Yeah, yeah, it makes me sad when you say that because I love to learn too, and I think it's core to a leader to learn.
Absolutely.
What do most people get wrong about leading?
Whew. there's there's there there's a lot. It's we have to be, especially as women, people can be very, very critical of the way that we show up as women,
Mhm.
especially as Christian women in leadership. We have to be, or we're expected to be soft and kind. And, um, there, there is a softness and a kindness that we bring naturally, as mothers and nurturers and sisters and wives. But here's the thing, it's not about leading with softness. It's not about being passive. It's about being wise and discerning and bold and sacrificial and accountable. And so, as we're going out and leading as Christian women, we want to be the example of how to do that, how to do all those things, but still lead with strength and character and wisdom and mostly discernment, right? Like, what is God really trying to tell me, or what is God trying to
Hmm.
communicate through me as I'm having these conversations, as I'm leading these people? And so I really think it's easy to fall into the trap of we're expected to be this soft, mushy, um, passive women leaders.
Yeah. What's the biggest mistake you see Christian women leaders making?
Oh, so in general, not just Christian women, I think we have
Hmm.
to be very, very careful about staying in rooms that we're comfortable in. Something that I just did a LinkedIn post about this not long ago. Um, Something that we have to be very, very mindful of is it's easy for us to show up to all of the women's events or the events that are full of people that are just like us, that are, the rooms that we're comfortable in. And my
Mm.
best advice is show up in the rooms where you're the most uncomfortable. Show up in the rooms where you walk in and you don't know what to do. It's all about, because then it literally is all about God. God is going to put you where you're supposed to be, and you've got to listen to that. You've got to hear that. So it's, for me, it's about the diversity of the crowd that we're in and the thought process that we're in and how we're processing that. And so, my biggest advice to women leaders is show up in the places that you least want to show up in. Go
Mm.
to those. Say yes to the things when your heart is racing and your brain's going, no, that's where you need to be, because the most growth happens in the biggest times of discomfort.
That's exactly right. And we're not called to comfort.
That's
And
right.
if we get too comfortable as a Christian, that's a danger sign,
Yes, it
right?
is.
Beautiful. Great advice. What do you want other Christian working women to know?
Whew. Um, it's okay to let go. It's okay to not get it right every time. We're I don't like to say fail. I like to say fall. We're all going to fall. And the point is that you've got to get back up and dust yourself off and keep going. Because when you fall and you just sit there in it, someone recently said, if you don't, if I'm not going to go there. Don't sit in it. Like, get up and move. Get past it, and take the lessons that you're learning with you, and don't live in the past with them, because I've really fallen into the trap of taking those mistakes with me and being those mistakes, and that's not where we want to be. Take the lessons and leave the
Mm-hmm.
mistakes behind, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. You're going to do it. That's part of it. Move forward.
What's your best advice to the next generations of Christian women in leadership?
Find someone who's already find someone or some people or a group who have already been there, who are older than you, who are more experienced than you, and latch on to them. Ask questions and be curious. And when you're going through that struggle, reach out. You don't have to do this alone. That's the biggest trap that we
Mm.
fall into, right? We think especially as women, I don't need your help. I've got this. I'm good. And the truth is, you're not good. You do need help. And think about how much better your life could be, your family could be, your business could be, if you were leaning into the help that's available to you, if you just ask for it.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. How can people get a hold of you, and how can they find out more about your work?
So I am a big LinkedIn person. I am actively posting on LinkedIn. I answer all of my LinkedIn messages. So really, if you want to connect with me, um, reach out, follow me on LinkedIn. Like I said, I like to connect with other women leaders, men leaders, you name it. I want to connect with other leaders. I want to know what's happening. And if you're interested in what's happening with me or my group or Vistage, reach out. I'm happy to share.
Thank you so much. Angela, thank you so much for your wisdom and knowledge and experience. So here's what we're going to do next. You, the listener, are challenged to take one piece of advice, wisdom, or information that you heard and apply it in your work, leadership, and management this week. And if you want, please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and all the podcast platforms. And lastly, if you need or want additional wisdom from Christian women in leadership, you can go to Amazon and find all of our books of Threads of Wisdom there. Please help us to pass the torch of wisdom to the next generations. May God bless your day.